Hey guys, this is Stacy from eatthebite.com, and today I'm making brick chicken with a fantastic pan sauce and roasted veggies. Let me show you how to make it. We need to spatchcock the chicken, which means we need to cut out the spine. And you're watching me spatchcock a chicken for the very first time. My kitchen shears have seen better days, so let it be known you need a sharp pair of scissors to make this a little easier. Though I think no matter what, this is what it looks like the first time you do it. I wrestled a little and had to do a couple of extra cuts, but I did get it done in the end. You can throw that spine away, but you could also use it for chicken stock. The chicken still won't really lay flat until we cut this cartilage right here. So just make a small cut, and then we're going to press down with your hands until you hear it crack. I went ahead and cut the wings off to cook separately since they'll probably overcook if I leave them on. Or you could set them aside for stock too. I'm going to season the chicken with a little bit of salt and some pepper. Then I'll turn it over and season the other side with salt as well. And then I'm going to let it sit for about 20 or 30 minutes so that salt can draw out the moisture before it goes in the oven. While that's happening, we've got to wrap our bricks in foil. I used heavy-duty aluminum foil for this, and you just want to wrap it around the brick and then fold it in on both sides. So easy. Next, I did have some water running off my cutting board, which I drained in the sink, but I still need to pat down the chicken with some paper towels. Just blot the liquid off like you see here. Some of the salt will get rubbed off, so take a look, and if you need to add a little more salt here, go ahead and do that. I did need to add a light sprinkling of salt at the end of this. And then after that, I added the pepper. Then I drizzled a little canola oil on the chicken and in the pan as well. Next, I put the chicken in the pan, skin side down, of course, and I did heat the pan ahead of time so it was sizzling right away. Now I'll put one brick on each side of the chicken. And this will go in a preheated oven at 500 degrees for the first 10 minutes, and then we'll reduce it to 450 degrees. And it should take about 35 to 40 minutes to cook. While that's happening, I have squash. Calabaza squash to be exact, which I never had before, but I figured it was $1.35, I might as well give it a try. Just scoop the seeds from the inside of the squash like you see here. And I have this one spoon that has this pretty sharp edge, so I always use it for stuff like this. Next, I cut it in half. Then I put it into a small baking dish. Drizzled a little olive oil on there, and I just used my hands to rub the oil all over the squash. And after that, I did season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. I'll cook this in the oven with my chicken for about 35 to 40 minutes. Now I need to prep for the pan sauce. I bought a small pack of poultry herbs, which includes some thyme and sage. And I'm going to start by pulling the leaves from the thyme first. Just hold the stem and gently pull the leaves off. You only need a few of these. After that, I'm going to get 2 sage leaves. And I'll stack those on top of each other, roll them up. I'll give that a slice, and then a chop down into finer bits from there. After that, I'll just combine the sage and the thyme together and give it a rough chop. It should look about like this when you're finished. I've got 1 medium shallot, and I'm going to slice it into thin rounds. Then the remaining ingredients for the pan sauce are low-sodium chicken broth and white wine. Obviously, the cheap stuff is fine for this. And I've taken the brick chicken out of the oven, removed the bricks, which are very hot, so be careful, and then I transferred it to a small sheet pan. Now, I need to remove most of the fat from the pan, but I'm going to leave about a tablespoon or so in there. So the pan sauce will start with that little bit of fat and those incredibly flavorful brown bits. And then we're going to leave the rest of that fat behind. I've got my broiler on high, and I am going to take an additional step of getting the skin extra crispy and put it under the broiler for a couple of minutes. While that's happening, I'm going to start my pan sauce. I added my shallots to the pan with that fat, and I'll give those a stir around for a couple of minutes. Then I'll add some white wine. I'm going to stir that around a couple of minutes until most of the wine cooks off, the shallot rings separate, and those brown bits start dissolving into the sauce. When it looks about like this, I'm going to add that fresh sage and thyme. We'll give that a stir for a minute or so until it gets fragrant. Next, I'm going to add a little low-sodium chicken broth to this, and I'll whisk that around the pan for a few minutes. I'm also going to add a little pat of butter here. And finally, we will add a bit of water, give it another stir for a minute or two, and it's done. Now let's check the chicken. That's the sound we're going for. So we've got our awesome crispy chicken, and don't forget to take those additional juices and put it right into the pan sauce. And this was a feast, I tell you. The chicken skin was super crispy, and the chicken itself was tender and delicious. The squash had a wonderful sweet and nutty flavor, and I made some last-minute zucchini as well. And that pan sauce, you will not believe how delicious it is. I hope you give this one a try and that you enjoy this recipe as much as I did. And as usual, you'll find this and all the printable recipes on my website at eatthebite.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.